The sun had long disappeared below the jagged horizon of the distant planet, leaving behind a sky painted in shades of violet and deep indigo. Strange auroras danced faintly across the alien heavens, casting pale, shifting lights on the rocky terrain. In the middle of this wild and unforgiving landscape stood a small human forward base, built hastily on the edge of a canyon. It was a place of strategy and survival, where humanity fought to maintain a foothold against forces it barely understood. Inside one of the solitary tents, the human scout rested, leaning against a stack of crates and rubbing his weary shoulders. His body ached from the long day of scouting enemy positions and dodging patrols. His eyes, dark and alert, scanned the dim interior of the tent, half expecting some sudden danger. But for now, there was silence broken only by the occasional gust of wind outside that rattled the fabric of the tent. The scout, whose name was Ryan, was used to this kind of solitude. Months of missions had hardened him to isolation, and he often found comfort in the quiet. Still, nights like this carried a weight. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. Every whisper of wind felt like a signal of approaching enemies. He took a slow breath, trying to calm his mind. When suddenly he heard it, a soft knock at the tent flap. Ryan froze. The knock was deliberate, measured, and oddly gentle. Not like the hurried steps of an enemy soldier or the clumsy movements of a wild creature. His hand instinctively moved toward the sidearm resting on his belt. "Who's there?" he called, keeping his voice steady despite the sudden spike of tension. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the flap rustled, and a figure stepped into the dim light of the tent. Ryan's eyes widened. It was a young alien woman, tall and striking. She wore full battle armor, its surface covered in intricate symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Scars of combat etched across her armor spoke of countless battles fought and survived. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, locked onto his, carrying both curiosity and caution. "You are alone?" she asked, her voice calm but firm, like someone who had learned to command attention without raising it. Ryan nodded slowly, still unsure of what to make of her presence. "Yes," he replied. "And you? Who are you?" The alien woman tilted her head slightly, studying him. "I come in peace. I need to speak. Away from the eyes of my people," she said. There was a weight in her words, a sense of urgency and trust intermingled. Ryan's hand relaxed slightly on his weapon. He had seen enough to know when someone meant what they said, even in a world where trust was rare. She stepped further inside, careful not to touch anything, keeping a deliberate distance. The faint hum of her armor seemed almost alive, like a quiet heartbeat of metal and energy. Ryan noticed the way she moved, graceful but measured, each step precise. It was the movement of a trained warrior, one who knew both strength and discipline. "Why here? Why now?" Ryan asked, curiosity mixing with caution. The alien's eyes flickered toward the tent's entrance and then back to him. "Because the time is short. My people are preparing for war, but I need to understand what humans are capable of." Her voice carried no arrogance, only a mixture of awe and respect. Ryan leaned back slightly, studying her. He could sense that this was no ordinary encounter. There was a story behind her presence, a reason she had crossed dangerous terrain alone. The wind outside rattled the tent again, and the faint auroras flickered across her armor, highlighting the worn edges and battle scars. Each mark told a story, but it was her eyes that spoke loudest, eyes that had seen too much, yet held a glimmer of hope. "You trust me?" Ryan asked cautiously. She allowed a small smile, almost imperceptible. "I am learning too," she replied. "And you? Do you trust me enough to speak?" Ryan considered her words. He had faced hostile aliens before, and not all encounters had ended well. Yet something about this moment, this quiet connection in the middle of a chaotic world, felt different. He nodded slowly. "Yes, speak." The alien warrior lowered her gaze for a moment, as if weighing the right words. Then she began to speak, telling him fragments of her life. Her people, she explained, were fierce defenders of their territory, trained from birth to fight and survive. Their world was harsh, and only the strongest warriors could hope to rise. Yet she, despite her skill, felt the burden of expectation pressing heavily on her shoulders. She had been sent on countless missions, each one more dangerous than the last, and each one leaving scars that went beyond the physical. Ryan listened intently, fascinated by her words. He had known humans carried burdens too, but there was something in the way she spoke, something universal. Fear, hope, responsibility, it was all the same across species. Despite their differences, he understood her struggle. There was a long pause. The alien warrior looked down at her armor, running a gloved hand along its surface. The metallic panels reflected the faint light of the auroras, and for a moment, she seemed almost human, vulnerable, uncertain, and weary. "I cannot stay long," she said quietly. "But I need you to see me as I am, not just as a soldier." Ryan nodded, sensing the weight of her request. This was more than a simple conversation. It was a moment of honesty, rare and precious in a universe where survival often required walls of steel, both literal and figurative. Slowly, deliberately, she began to remove the first piece of her battle armor. The movement was careful, almost ritualistic, as though each piece carried a story, a memory. The sound of metal sliding against metal filled the quiet tent, each echo emphasizing the gravity of the moment. Ryan watched, alert but respectful, understanding that this was a gesture of trust unlike any he had experienced before. As the armor came off piece by piece, more of her intricate markings became visible. Patterns of bioluminescent lines traced her limbs, glowing faintly in the dim light. Scars marked her skin in ways that told tales of battles survived and losses endured. She was not just a fighter. She was a history, a living record of her people's struggles. Ryan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. To witness this was to witness courage in its purest form, the courage not just to fight, but to reveal vulnerability in a world that demanded strength. He remained silent, letting her remove her armor at her own pace, sensing that any interruption would break the fragile trust being built. Hours passed like moments. The alien warrior shared fragments of her past, her hopes, and the doubts she carried. Ryan spoke as well, telling her about humanity's struggles, the hardships faced on the frontier, and the small victories that kept hope alive. The conversation was slow, deliberate, and honest, building a bridge between two worlds separated by distance, culture, and experience. Outside, the auroras shifted, painting the tent in moving shades of color. The wind whispered against the fabric, a quiet symphony for the intimate dialogue inside. In that small tent, amid a planet scarred by war, a connection formed, a bond not of blood or allegiance, but of understanding, respect, and shared humanity. By the time the first hints of dawn colored the horizon, the alien warrior had removed her armor completely. Ryan could see the strength and resilience beneath, but also the quiet vulnerability that made her not just a fighter, but a being capable of trust and empathy. She was, in every sense, a warrior of two worlds, fierce in battle yet capable of profound understanding. Ryan knew that this night would stay with him forever. He had witnessed something extraordinary, not just the presence of an alien warrior, but the meeting of courage and vulnerability, of trust earned rather than demanded. He felt honored, and in that moment, he understood that heroism was not just about strength or survival. Sometimes, it was about the courage to be seen, truly seen, even in the most dangerous of worlds. As the first rays of alien sunlight crept across the rocky horizon, the warrior spoke once more. "I must return, but know this: I will remember this night and the understanding we shared." Ryan nodded, a quiet smile on his face. "And I will remember it too." With that, she stepped toward the tent's flap, pausing for one last glance. In her eyes was a mixture of gratitude and determination, a promise that their worlds might meet again, not as enemies, but as beings capable of understanding and respect. Then she disappeared into the alien landscape, leaving Ryan alone, yet profoundly changed, for the first time in a long while. Ryan felt hope not just for himself, but for humanity's place in the galaxy, and for the possibility that even in a universe defined by conflict, connection could exist. The next day dawned with a pale light filtering through the jagged rocks, surrounding the human forward base. The air was cold but clear, and the alien sky shifted in subtle shades of orange and violet. Ryan stood outside his tent, stretching his stiff muscles and scanning the horizon. The events of the previous night still weighed on his mind. He could hardly believe what had happened to an alien warrior, a member of a rival faction, had trusted him enough to reveal herself completely. He thought about her words, the careful removal of her battle armor, and the quiet vulnerability she had displayed. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Humans were trained to hide weakness, to present a strong front even when afraid. Yet here was someone from another world, a seasoned warrior, showing him her truth. He felt a strange mixture of awe, respect, and curiosity. Ryan decided to pack some equipment and prepare for another scouting mission. As he moved through the base, he noticed the subtle tension in the air. Soldiers went about their tasks quietly, exchanging occasional glances. But something about this day felt different. Perhaps it was the lingering calm after a long night, or perhaps it was the memory of the alien warrior. Hours passed as he moved through rocky valleys and narrow canyons, documenting enemy positions and noting signs of patrols. The terrain was harsh, filled with jagged cliffs and loose stones that made every step a challenge. Ryan's senses were sharp. He knew the dangers of this world, both from the environment and from hostile forces. Yet despite the challenges, his mind kept returning to the alien warrior, to her presence, and to the conversation they had shared. As the sun climbed higher, he found a small clearing sheltered by tall rock formations. It was a perfect spot to rest and review his notes. He sat down on a flat rock, pulling out his datapad, when he heard the faint hum of movement behind him. Ryan's hand went to his sidearm instinctively, but his training told him to observe before reacting. Out of the shadows stepped the alien warrior. She moved with the same careful grace as the night before, her steps deliberate and measured. This time, she was not wearing her battle armor, but a lighter tactical outfit that allowed freedom of movement while still offering protection. Her markings glowed faintly under the alien sunlight, and her eyes carried the same mixture of caution and curiosity. Ryan rose to his feet. "You again?" he asked, surprised but relieved. She nodded slightly. "I wanted to continue our conversation. There is more you should know, and more I need to understand about humans." Ryan gestured to the space beside him. "Sit, I have water and rations. You must be hungry after traveling." She moved closer but remained cautious, sitting at a respectful distance. The silence between them was comfortable, a shared understanding that neither would rush the other. Ryan offered her a portion of his rations, and she accepted with a nod, her movements precise and deliberate. Once she had eaten, she began to speak again. Her voice was calm, steady, but carried a depth of emotion. She told Ryan about her homeworld, a place of vast deserts, towering cities, and advanced technology, but also a planet where survival was a constant challenge. She spoke of her training as a warrior, of the rigorous tests she had endured, and of the pressure to always be perfect. Ryan listened, fascinated. The more she spoke, the more he realized how much they had in common. Humans and her species faced similar struggles, expectations, duty, and the need to survive in a harsh universe. Her stories were filled with courage, ingenuity, and resilience, qualities he recognized immediately. "You carry a heavy burden," Ryan said after a while. "Even for humans, what you describe is extreme." She glanced at him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and respect. "And yet you survive. Your people do not give up easily, even when the odds are against you. That is why I am here. I want to know how humans endure, how you fight when everything is stacked against you." Ryan smiled faintly. "We survive because we must, because giving up is not an option. Every human you meet, every soldier, every scientist, every civilian, they fight in their own way. It may not look like a battle, but it is. And sometimes, it is the smallest actions that matter the most." The alien warrior considered his words carefully. "Your strength is not just in your body, then," she said quietly. "It is in your mind and your will." Ryan nodded. "Yes, and that is why I respect warriors like you. You fight not just with weapons, but with determination, with heart." For a moment, silence fell again. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying dust and faint scents of alien flora. Ryan noticed how the alien warrior's eyes softened slightly as she looked at him. There was no armor now, no protective shell, only her presence and the courage it took to show it. She shifted slightly and spoke again. "Last night, when I removed my armor, it was not easy. On my world, showing weakness is dangerous. But I wanted you to see me, not just as a soldier, but as someone capable of trust." Ryan felt a deep respect for her courage. "That takes more strength than most people realize," he said. "Many fight battles in armor and swords, but the hardest battles are often invisible. What you did, it matters more than you know." She looked down at her hands for a moment, then back at him. "I am beginning to understand humans. Your resilience, your empathy, your willingness to connect. It is unlike anything I expected. It is inspiring." Ryan felt a warmth of pride, but also humility. "We are far from perfect," he said. "We make mistakes, we struggle, we fail, but we try. That is what keeps us moving forward. That is what makes us human." The alien warrior nodded slowly, absorbing his words. "And perhaps that is why I am here. To learn, to see, and to carry a different understanding back to my people. Perhaps there is a way to avoid some of the conflicts that seem inevitable." Hours passed as they continued to share stories, each learning from the other. The alien warrior spoke of battles, strategies, and the weight of leadership. Ryan spoke of survival, courage, and the small acts that make a difference in a world filled with danger. They found a rhythm, a quiet connection that transcended species, culture, and experience. At one point, Ryan pointed toward the horizon where the sun was climbing higher. "Look at that," he said. "Even in the harshest places, there is beauty. Even in the middle of a battlefield, life continues. That is something worth protecting." The alien warrior followed his gaze, her eyes reflecting the light of the alien sun. "You are right. Perhaps that is the lesson I needed to learn. That strength is not just in victory, but in preserving life, in understanding, and in hope." Ryan smiled. "Exactly. And that is why I respect you. You carry the same principles, even if your path is different. That is what makes you remarkable." The alien warrior looked at him, and for a moment, there was no need for words. Their shared understanding was clear. Two beings from different worlds had found common ground in courage, empathy, and trust. The bond they were forming was subtle, quiet, but powerful, a bridge between species in a galaxy often defined by conflict. As the sun reached its peak, the warrior rose to her feet. "I must return," she said, her voice steady. "But I will carry what I have learned here with me. And perhaps, one day, our people will understand that trust is stronger than fear, and connection stronger than war." Ryan nodded. "I hope that day comes. And when it does, I hope you remember this place." In this moment, she offered a small, respectful bow, a gesture of acknowledgement and gratitude. Then she turned, moving with the same careful grace that had marked her since the beginning. Ryan watched her leave, her figure disappearing into the rocky landscape, carrying with her a part of the connection they had formed, even after she was gone. Ryan felt her presence lingering, the lesson she had shared, the courage she had displayed, and the trust she had offered would stay with him. He understood now that heroism was not only about battles won or enemies defeated. Sometimes it was about understanding, empathy, and the courage to be vulnerable in a world that demanded strength. Ryan returned to his base, his mind alive with thoughts. He knew that the galaxy was vast and dangerous, and that conflicts would continue. But he also knew that hope could exist, even in the harshest worlds. Connection, trust, and understanding were as powerful as any weapon, and perhaps more enduring. That night, as he prepared for another long watch under the alien stars, Ryan felt a quiet determination. The alien warrior had shown him that strength came in many forms, and that even in the midst of war, there was room for courage, understanding, and hope. He looked toward the horizon, imagining her journey and the lesson she would carry back to her people. And he felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the actions of one being could ripple across worlds, changing the course of understanding and perhaps even the fate of the galaxy. The following days passed quietly at the forward base, though the stillness was deceptive. Ryan continued his patrols, noting the alien movements and keeping detailed records of enemy positions. Each day he moved farther into the rugged terrain, careful to avoid detection. But the memory of the alien warrior lingered in his mind. Her presence had shifted something inside him, her courage, her honesty. Her willingness to trust had left an impression deeper than any battle or mission. One evening, as the twin moons of the planet rose slowly over the horizon, Ryan found himself near a canyon edge, observing the patterns of patrols below. The sky was filled with muted shades of purple and green, casting an otherworldly glow over the rocky landscape. The air was sharp and cold, and he wrapped his jacket tight around himself. He had been scanning for several hours when he heard the subtle hum of movement nearby, a sound that made him tense immediately. Emerging from the shadows was the alien warrior, once again moving with her graceful, deliberate steps. She was alone, unarmored, carrying only a small pack slung over her shoulder. Her expression was calm but determined, and her eyes met his with quiet intensity. "You again," Ryan said, allowing a small smile to break through his tension. "You're becoming a regular visitor." She tilted her head slightly, as if amused. "I seek understanding," she said simply, "and perhaps companionship, if it can be called that. Your people value loyalty and trust." "I wish to know more." Ryan gestured to a flat rock nearby. "Sit. The wind is cold, and you must be tired from traveling." She accepted the offer, moving closer but still keeping a careful distance. The quiet of the canyon seemed to stretch, holding space for the two of them to speak freely. Ryan noticed the faint markings along her arms, glowing softly in the moonlight. Each line seemed alive, telling stories of her life, her battles, her culture. The alien warrior's presence was both commanding and gentle, and Ryan felt a strange sense of peace in her company. "You've been observing humans for a long time," Ryan said after a while, breaking the silence. "What have you learned so far?" She considered this carefully. "Humans endure. You face danger and uncertainty every day, yet you continue. You build, you fight, you protect, and sometimes you even forgive. There's a strength in your persistence, and a power in your ability to connect with others." "That surprises me," Ryan nodded. "We do what we must. Survival is not easy, but hope keeps us going. And small acts, even the simplest gestures, can make a difference in ways that seem invisible at first." The alien warrior's eyes softened as she studied him. "I have seen courage before, but you're kind, your way, it is different. You fight not just with strength, but with heart. That is rare among all the warriors I have encountered." Ryan felt a warmth rise in his chest, not from pride, but from understanding. "And that is why I respect you. You've endured battles that most could not imagine. And yet, here you are, seeking more than victory, seeking connection, seeking understanding. That takes more courage than any weapon can provide." She looked down at her hands, her fingers tracing the faint glow of her markings. "Last time I removed my armor in front of you, it was an act of trust. It was difficult, but I felt understood. That alone changes the way I see strength. Strength is not only in defense or attack. Strength is in knowing when to reveal oneself, to be vulnerable, to risk trust." Ryan leaned forward slightly. "Exactly. And trust, once given, becomes powerful. It can turn enemies into allies, strangers into friends, and even change the course of a battle or a war. I believe that connection, trust, and understanding are more important than any weapon we wield." The alien warrior nodded slowly. "I begin to see that, and perhaps that is why I returned. To learn more, to test my understanding, and perhaps to see if humans and my kind can coexist in ways not dictated by war." For a while, neither spoke. The wind whispered through the canyon, carrying fine dust and the faint scent of alien flora. Above them, the moons drifted slowly, casting shifting shadows over the rocky walls. The quiet was comfortable, a space where words were not always necessary. Yet in the silence, Ryan sensed a growing bond. Fragile but undeniable, a bridge forming between two beings who had little in common on the surface. yet shared a profound understanding beneath. Finally, the alien warrior spoke again. I have questions, she said softly. About you, about humans, about choices. How do you decide when to act? How do you choose who to trust? How do you know the right moment to risk everything for another? Ryan considered her questions carefully. Sometimes, there is no perfect answer, he said. We act with the information we have, the instincts we trust, and the values we carry. Trust is earned slowly, but lost quickly. Courage is tested every day. And the right moment, often, it is a feeling, a quiet sense inside that tells you this is the time to act, to risk, to protect, to hope. The alien warrior absorbed his words. And when you are wrong? She asked. Ryan smiled faintly. Then you learn, adapt, and try again. Failure is not defeat unless you stop trying. Humans survive because we learn from our mistakes, because we endure, and because we keep hope alive. That is what separates survival from mere existence. She nodded, her expression thoughtful. Your words carry weight. I see now why humans endure, why you are capable of connection, courage, and resilience. These are qualities I admire, qualities I wish my people could see more clearly. Ryan felt a quiet pride, but also humility. And perhaps one day, they will. But even if not, what matters is that we act with integrity, with courage, and with trust whenever possible. That is the essence of true strength, no matter where you come from, ours past. And the night deepened. The alien warrior shared more of her personal experiences her first battle, the losses she had faced, the victories that had shaped her, and the choices that had weighed heavily on her mind. Ryan listened, offering perspective, advice, and empathy where he could. He shared stories of humanity's battles, not only with alien forces, but with harsh environments, scarcity, and internal struggles. In those hours, a rare understanding blossomed between them. Two warriors from different worlds shared not only stories, but philosophies, insights, and the beginnings of mutual respect that went beyond words. Ryan realized that this was not just a chance encounter. It was a pivotal moment in both their lives, a point where trust, courage, and understanding converged. At one point, Ryan stood and stretched. We should head back before patrols notice us, he said, glancing toward the direction of the base. The alien warrior rose as well. Yes, I will accompany you, though cautiously. My presence must remain unnoticed. Together, they moved through the rocky landscape, careful, silent, and attuned to each other's presence. Ryan noticed how her body moved with the precision of a seasoned warrior. Yet there was a softness in her gaze, an openness he had not expected. She was learning to balance strength with vulnerability, power with understanding, a lesson he recognized from his own experiences. As they approached the forward base, the alien warrior paused. Ryan, I have seen something I did not expect, she said quietly. Humans are capable of great resilience, yes. But more than that, they are capable of compassion, empathy, and connection. That is something my people do not always value. Yet I see it now, and I respect it deeply. Ryan smiled. And that respect goes both ways. You are brave, honorable, and wise. The courage it took to reveal yourself, to trust me, and to learn. That is something rare in any species. She nodded, a small smile on her face. Perhaps this is the beginning of something different. A way to bridge worlds, to find understanding where there was only fear and conflict. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest at her words. It can be, but it starts small, with moments like this. Small acts of trust, conversation, and respect can ripple outward. One meeting, one choice, one understanding. It can change the path of a life or a planet. The alien warrior regarded him thoughtfully. Then I will carry this understanding forward. And I will hope that one day our people can see the value in connection, as you humans do. Ryan nodded. And I will continue to fight, to endure, and to hope. That is all we can do in a galaxy full of challenges. As the base came into view, the alien warrior paused, her gaze lingering on him. I will return, she said softly. There is more to learn, more to see, and more to share. But for now, this is enough. Ryan watched her slip back into the shadows, a figure of grace. strength, and newfound trust. The bond they had formed was subtle but unbreakable, a connection born not of circumstance but of choice, courage, and understanding. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that even in a galaxy defined by war and uncertainty, trust and connection could exist, bridging species and worlds. As he entered the base and resumed his duties, Ryan carried the lessons of the night with him. The alien warrior had shown him that strength was more than physical power, that courage included the willingness to trust, and that hope and understanding could survive even in the darkest corners of the universe. And in that knowledge, he found the drive to endure, to protect, and to strive for something greater than mere survival. Word count, approximately 1,400 words. Style, third person, simple English, engaging, cinematic, safe if you want. I can now write part for the conclusion. Final decisions and emotional resolution. The days that followed were tense yet filled with a strange sense of anticipation. Ryan returned to his scouting missions with renewed determination, documenting enemy movements and reporting his findings to the command center. But in every quiet moment, his thoughts drifted to the alien warrior. Her presence, her courage, and the trust she had shown him lingered like a quiet light in the darkness of the war-torn world. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the jagged horizon, Ryan prepared his gear for a night patrol. The air was crisp and sharp, and the alien sky glowed faintly in shades of blue and purple. He moved cautiously through the rocky terrain, alert to the slightest movement, every shadow potentially hiding danger. His senses, sharpened by years of survival, were attuned to the subtle shifts in the environment, the rustle of alien plants, the whisper of wind against rocks, the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. As he reached a narrow canyon, he sensed movement nearby. Stepping into a patch of moonlight, he saw her. The alien warrior stood at the edge of the rocks, silhouetted against the faint glow of the moons. She was unarmored, her tactical outfit light and flexible, and her markings glowed faintly in the dim light. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to disappear. "You are persistent," Ryan said, a small smile on his face. "I did not expect to see you again so soon." "I promise to return," she replied softly, "and I have come to share something important. I have learned much from our conversations, and I wish to act on that knowledge. But I cannot do it alone." Ryan's curiosity was piqued. "Act on what? Tell me." The alien warrior stepped closer, her gaze steady. "I have been tasked with leading a mission against a dangerous enemy faction. They plan to strike a settlement where both humans and aliens coexist. I cannot face them without guidance. I need someone I trust, someone who understands strategy, courage, and unpredictability. That is why I have come to you." Ryan felt a rush of adrenaline and responsibility. The stakes were high, but he also felt a surge of trust and connection. "Then we do this together," he said firmly. "We plan carefully, strike with precision, and protect as best we can. No one should face this alone." The alien warrior nodded. "Good, we must move quickly. Time is short, and the enemy will not wait." They spent the next hours planning, sitting in a sheltered alcove overlooking the enemy territory. Ryan shared his knowledge of the terrain, patrol patterns, and strategies that could maximize their advantage. The alien warrior contributed her insight into the enemy's tactics, strengths, and weaknesses. Together, they formed a plan that combined human ingenuity with alien discipline, blending two approaches into a cohesive strategy. As they worked, Ryan noticed how she moved with a careful efficiency, yet there was a softness in her demeanor when interacting with him. She trusted him not only with her life but with her plan, and that trust deepened their bond. In return, Ryan found himself respecting her even more, not only for her skill as a warrior, but for her courage to show vulnerability and rely on another being. By the time the first light of dawn touched the horizon, their plan was complete. They had identified the enemy positions, determined the safest approach, and prepared contingencies for unexpected events. There was no time for hesitation, only action. The alien warrior turned to Ryan. "Are you ready?" she asked. He nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. "Ready?" They moved silently across the rocky terrain, using natural cover and shadows to stay hidden. The air was tense, every step measured, every movement deliberate. Ryan felt his heart pound not from fear, but from the intensity of the mission and the presence of the warrior by his side. Together, they were a force combining human adaptability and alien skill, a partnership forged through trust and shared understanding. As they approached the enemy's settlement, Ryan signaled to stop. He and the alien warrior crouched behind a rock formation, observing the enemy patrols. Their eyes met, and without words, they communicated the plan. Timing, precision, and coordination were critical. One wrong move could expose them and put the settlement at risk. The alien warrior took the lead, moving swiftly and silently toward a patrol. Ryan followed closely, covering her flank and using his knowledge of human tactics to anticipate enemy movements. Together, they neutralized the patrol without raising an alarm, each action executed with precision and confidence. Hours passed as they advanced through the settlement, carefully avoiding detection while assessing the threat. Ryan's mind remained sharp, calculating angles, noting weaknesses, and coordinating with the alien warrior. He realized that this partnership, born from trust and understanding, allowed them to operate with an efficiency neither could achieve alone. At one point, they reached a central building where the enemy commanders were likely coordinating their forces. Ryan glanced at the alien warrior. "This is it. We must be careful, but decisive." She nodded, her expression determined. "We act together. Trust in me, as I trust in you." The operation began. Swift, precise, and silent, they moved through the building, disabling communications, securing key areas, and preventing the enemy from launching an attack. The alien warrior's agility and strength complemented Ryan's strategic thinking and adaptability, and together they overcame every obstacle. When the operation concluded, the settlement was safe. Humans and aliens alike would wake to another day, unaware of the danger that had been neutralized. Ryan and the alien warrior emerged from the shadows, the tension of the mission slowly dissipating. "You were remarkable," Ryan said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "I could not have done this without you." She smiled faintly. "And I could not have done it without you. You taught me that trust, understanding, and courage are as important as skill and strength. Today, we proved that together. Beings from different worlds can achieve more than we ever could alone." Ryan felt a sense of fulfillment, not only from the success of the mission, but from the bond that had grown between them. They had shared danger, strategy, and trust, and in doing so, had built a partnership that transcended species and background. The alien warrior glanced at the horizon. "I must return to my people soon. They will expect me, and my absence will raise questions. But I carry what I have learned here. Perhaps one day, our people will see that cooperation and understanding are stronger than fear and conflict." Ryan nodded. "And when that day comes, they will know the value of what we did. But for now, I will remember this moment, and I will honor the trust we shared." She stepped closer, her presence calm yet commanding. "Remember this too, Ryan. Courage is not only in battle, but in the choices we make, the trust we offer, and the hope we carry. Keep that alive." Ryan looked into her eyes, seeing not just a warrior, but a being capable of understanding, empathy, and profound courage. "I will, and I will carry your lessons with me, always." With a final nod, the alien warrior turned and disappeared into the rocky terrain, moving with the grace and confidence of someone who had learned not only skill, but the value of trust and connection. Ryan watched her go, feeling a mixture of admiration, gratitude, and hope, alone once more. He reflected on the journey. The encounter had changed him. He had seen courage in a new light, understood the power of trust, and experienced the bond that could form between beings of different worlds. The galaxy was vast and often unforgiving, but moments like these reminded him that hope, understanding, and courage could thrive even in the darkest corners. As he returned to the base, the twin moons hanging low over the horizon, Ryan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The mission had been a success, but the true victory was the connection he had formed, the lessons he had learned, and the understanding that strength was more than power. It was trust, courage, and the willingness to reach out across differences. That night, As he gazed at the alien sky, Ryan knew that their paths would cross again. The alien warrior had promised to return, and he believed she would. Until then, he would prepare, endure, and hope. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but also full of possibilities. And he understood now that heroism was not just about battles won, it was about courage, understanding, and the trust that could unite even the most unlikely allies. With the stars above and the quiet of the planet around him, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. He had faced danger, witnessed courage, and learned the value of trust. And in doing so, he had discovered something even more powerful than victory: the connection between beings, the strength of understanding, and the hope that could survive across worlds.